I'm Sharon Palmer. My friends call me SMAP, which is my initials. And I'm just a, to be honest, casual fan of the show. I really like it, but I don't have any great in-depth secrets. I have no idea what the producers or the writers were trying to accomplish. I just have opinions. So
my name is Kristen Jackson. I'm a graphic designer. I work mostly in film. And I too am like a casual fan of the show. I didn't see the earlier seasons at all.
Oh.
So I'm relying on y'all to tell me why I need to go back and rewatch all the earlier seasons.
It's because the early seasons are better.
Yeah.
That's why you need to go back and rewatch.
Good morning, my name is Kimmy Ray. I do podcasting and live streaming, and I'm very excited to talk about Lena Luther today. The reason you should go back and watch all the seasons.
Well, that's
yeah.
My name is Rebecca Johnson. I'm one of the hosts of a podcast called Supergirl Radio. We are a weekly show that talks about the Supergirl TV series, but we also talk about Supergirl comics and the Helen Slater movie. So if you're interested in that, you can find us at supergirlradio.com. We also do video live streams as well. So we're on YouTube at youtube.com/BCTV podcast. So if you ever have any thoughts about the show, let us know.
Huzzah, we have an expert. Well, why don't you kick us off, because you know the most about this.
Sure. Well, I guess my initial question that I guess I would pose to the panel is, what do you think of the initial start to the season? We just got out of the Phantom Zone. So what did you think about that for those first kind of 7 episodes in the Phantom Zone, trying to get Cara out of it?
I actually found it quite interesting to watch, to see how their team worked without her and how she worked on her own, because she's been doing almost all of her stuff in the past couple of seasons with her group of friends, super friends. And I will confess, I never expected to run into her dad.
I think one of the things that this show is doing well, that some of the others I think have found some struggles with, is putting our hero in a position of being a mentor to a team.
Yeah.
If you contrast this with, in the next time slot, we're going to be talking about Flash, for example. While Supergirl has its flaws, and we will talk about it, in the position of having Cara actually mentor other heroes, mentor other humans, and quite tangibly grow, this season has really shown that. There's a few cheesy monikers. I maybe don't need to hear the term Supergirl and Friends 5 times an episode, but the point still stands that I believe this premise that she is now a mentor and that her team can function without her, functions better with her, and that she has grown since season 1.
I agree.
I felt the same way too, just from my more limited experiences, that they took away one of the key players, removed it from the team dynamic. And it seems like a very team-driven series. And so you took away a key member and had them need to figure out and function on their own. And then she needed to be, solo without anyone else to rely on. And I mean, like, literally cut off from the whole planet and everything. Her powers, I mean, it just, so being able to overcome a difficulty like that and still maintain herself, I really enjoyed that sort of storyline.
Yeah, I think the idea of it is really cool because Supergirl has such a history with the Phantom Zone. In the canon of the series, she was stuck in the Phantom Zone for such a long time as a child, and she's been in the Phantom Zone in Supergirl the movie and on Smallville. So she has not more than Superman, but when I think of Supergirl, like one of the big things is she usually gets stuck in the Phantom Zone. So that was fun to actually get to see that happen. My only critique of that, and this is not maybe something they could control because of Melissa's maternity leave, is that most of those first 7 episodes, Supergirl was in it for like 5 minutes. And that, to me, didn't really have it didn't carry a lot of weight. If it were me in my show and there were no, boundaries, I would probably have spent more time with Cara in the Phantom Zone. So that was a little bit of a letdown, but I did like the idea of her finding her father in the Phantom Zone and seeing all of that develop. So, and we also got the introduction of storage units in the Phantom Zone, which is a delightful surprise to me. I was like, what do they need to store in the Phantom Zone? What are they storing in there? They had cubby holes and stuff. So that was pretty fun to think about who built that building and why they needed building the Phantom Zone. But so I think they did pretty well handling, the limited amount of screen time from Melissa Benoist. So I'm glad that moving forward she'll be more present in the episodes. But I think they tried to do as much as they could, like with the team dynamics getting her out. So I guess the next thing, I think you brought up a good question that I could pose to everybody. We'll kind of look at both sides. So to start off, what do you think the show is doing well in the final season?
I think they're doing really well with the character development and having it make sense. I had a whole lot of problem with the previous season with Brainiac going off on this, his wild vision of the world, which didn't match what everybody else saw. But this year they're actually, what the characters are doing makes sense for that character. And I appreciate that. I like, you were talking about mentoring, I like with them introducing her father to Earth and telling him, okay, these are the things you can do here. These are the things you've got to be careful about. And I like that. I like the way that the team is starting to learn what the strengths and weaknesses of each member are and how to mesh those for the best effect. And I think they've been doing that very well.
I really liked, tying into that, the episode with the fear dreams, where you had every character kind of exposed for what they fear most in their lives, and also, just from the film standpoint, the cinematography of going back and we're seeing the scene from each person's different perspective. That was just fun. I really enjoyed that episode.
It was kind of a departure for their normal kind of formulaic way of structuring the episodes.
Yes, that was a really good episode.
I think in terms of what they're doing well, like I said, I think having Cara grow is a strength here, and not doing take-backsies on her growth, not having constant reversion, which we do see pretty frequently in superhero shows in order to generate the option of a new plot. In terms of what I feel is a struggle here, okay, don't judge me. I really like romance on shows like this, and there's just no romance that's really drawing me in. Yes, the whole thing with her sister and Jimmy Olsen's sister is very cute. That's the closest thing we've got to a good romance on this show, and it's good. But is it tugging at my heartstrings? Am I in a position where I'm having to root for them? No. And I know that's really shallow, and we should care about saving the world or whatever, but comic books are kind of soap opera-y, and I really like to see my hero in a great romance, and I think we really can have Cara in a great romance and still be Supergirl and still be strong and still be whatever, it's not either save the world or be loved. I would really love to see her in a good romance, and we haven't in a while.
Yeah, we're gonna
so the relationship dynamics for you are lacking. They're like friend dynamics, and there's a lot of good interplay with the friend dynamics, the relationships between the characters, but not as deep as what you want or think that would make the episodes better.
Right.
Or just the general story arcs better.
Exactly. And I think, especially because she is superpowered, she is an alien, it is nice in, for example, we look at something like Superman and Lois, or just any Superman storyline, and we see him fall in love with humanity through falling in love with Lois. And that doesn't have to be the path for Cara by any means. There's a wealth of comic book history that we could draw from and get a good romance for her, and I would like to see it. I think they may be a little gun shy on it because they have given her romances in past seasons, and I didn't love them. I think maybe a lot of us didn't love some of her past romances. So maybe they're just kind of putting a moratorium on those loves right now in general, but I'm ready for a good one, and I think they can do it.
Yeah, the show has struggled with doing a romance, particularly for Cara. I think season 2 was the only time they actually really saw it through with Monel, which I think made that season. I know a lot of people had issues with Monel, but I think the way that they played it from premiere to finale was really, there was an emotional arc that Cara especially went through with Monel, which I thought was great. But yeah, the show, I think the problem with the show is that they'll build it up and build it up and build it up, like Cara and James or Cara and William, and then they just cut it off at the knees for some reason. They randomly did that. I don't know if it was last week, but they were like, oh yeah, William's got an off-screen girlfriend that we've never heard about. And it's like, well, how am I supposed to get invested in a romance like that?
Right.
So yeah, I think the show, that's one of the things that they probably could do better if they chose to do a romance. Even with Alex and Kelly, it's, we don't get to spend a lot of time with them, so it's hard to get invested that way. So yeah, I think that's maybe one of the things that maybe they can improve on. And if anybody has any thoughts, feel free to raise your hand and share them. Yeah, go ahead.
One word to cause a lot of distinction. Supercorp.
That's quite
right
the topic. Yeah, so I think there are some things that maybe they could do to do better. So I guess maybe that would be a way to kind of segue into the next thing is, I know you shared your thoughts about what you thought could be better, but do y'all have any thoughts about what you think the show could improve on? It's a pretty big question.
I gotta think about that.
Well, it seems like, just from sort of a smaller perspective, like they've gone back to telling like smaller stories in these final episodes, like the prom night or whatever, even though that kind of tied into the bigger picture, it still was a smaller story, where it was almost a monster of the week in a lot of ways. And the one last week where they were kind of back in the office and they were talking about the paper and writing stories, I felt that was very much something that seemed to not fit with the overall rest of the season. It seemed like a call out that was enjoyable, because I got to learn a little bit more about the outside, the what else has been going on since the start. But I was wondering why they stuck that one in there where they did.
You mean in terms of the Catco stuff?
Yeah, it just seemed like
I think they just had to get Cara back to work because she had been gone for so long and she hadn't shown up to work in a while. And Catco has been such a big part of the show. It was huge, especially the first season. It's been kind of something that doesn't show up a lot in the comics, and some of the Supergirl rebirth especially had some Catco because they were trying to kind of go with the show. But it's something that I think they want to kind of go back, because all great final seasons go back to the beginning. And so I think they're trying to get back to that. But it was, I guess, to your point, a little jarring because we hadn't really spent a lot of time there. But I think they're trying to work it in with the Andrea, search, hunt for the Super Friends, I guess, what she's doing now.
I liked her little, her whiteboard behind her that had all the different,
her murder board.
All the listings also of the different publications. I was like, oh, Daily Planners. Reading through, that was kind of like a little Easter egg tie-in to the other shows that have different papers. They had the Gotham Gazette or something.
Her rankings board.
Yes, the rankings board. It's like, oh, we're down again.
Yeah, we're number 8.
Yeah, they're number 3 now, so let's see.
It's
gonna be tough to beat the Daily Planet.
So we do the Arctic, so we're a week behind.
Hopefully one of these days, Catco, whatever it is, a newspaper, magazine, television program, not really sure. One of these days it'll get up there. It's a radio show. I think they had, Leslie Willis had a radio show. So I guess talking about the Super Friends, we had a new development recently where Kelly Olsen decided to become Guardian, the new Guardian. So what are y'all's thoughts about that?
I think it's great.
Yeah, I like to have that character be the next Guardian. That sounds.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to see that.
I like that it was done. I like the episode in which it was done, where she's, working with the kids who are sort of in a bit of a foster home situation and have superpowers. It was pretty fast,
Yeah.
and my initial response to the episode was, this is rushed. We get one episode and suddenly she's Guardian. But I suppose the alternative would be dragging it out and not really getting to see her be Guardian. It's only the origin story of her becoming Guardian.
Mhm.
So I understand the trade-off that went into that. But ultimately, the decision to have her take up her brother's mantle, I think that that's a good fit, arguably a better fit than what they set up when they set James up to be Guardian.
Yeah.
She had the connection, the emotional connection to create a character like that.
Right.
Yeah,
And
it was,
she can build on what her brother had done. Yeah.
yeah, the James Guardian story, they kind of played it with the sort of, I guess, hero complex. He'd been such a sidekick for so long, he wanted to be a hero, and so I guess you could play it like that. But it's interesting to me, the Guardian storyline with Kelly is actually more comic book accurate, because Guardian in the comics, the Jim Harper Guardian, actually works with, I think it's orphan kids, and he has a team called the Newsboy Legion, which I love.
Oh, that's
It's like,
great.
it's these like little news, like if you think of the movie Newsies, or I guess the Broadway musical, but he has these little newsies that will go around and be like confidential informants for him. So I love the Newsboy Legion, and so I don't know if they would do like that kind of thing on Supergirl, but the fact that she is tied to these like orphan kids, and that's actually to me a little more comic book accurate. And I think it's kind of cool. They James never had any real color on his costume. It was very silver and kind of generic looking, but Kelly's is well, I don't want to spoil anything. I had an official picture released.
Yeah.
So I guess that's not really a spoiler because it's out there in the public, but she's gonna have a more golden look, and there is a golden Guardian in the comics, and so I think that's kind of cool because then you can have two Guardians. There's actually 3 Guardians in the comics. There's another one named Hornblower, which is kind of a silly name, but he has like a special magical horn. So it's cool that they didn't just like make her the new Guardian and replace James. He can still have his Guardian and she can have her Guardian. So I think that's really cool that they were able to make them so different. Okay, so we've had 9 episodes of season 6 so far. What is your favorite episode that they've aired in the season?
Yeah, for me, it would be the one with the fear dreams. And the second one would be the prom one, because that was just funny.
There were 2 parts. So
the second part.
The second part, okay.
Because I thought, I'm kind of a Brainiac fan. And that's what actually got me into the show was, I was watching one of the episodes and from like last year. I thought, now Brainiac, he's not green and he's not a bad guy. And I had always grown up thinking Brainiac was green and a bad guy, so I had to find out more because they kept calling him Brainy, and I was like, that's gotta be Brainiac. So how did this character that I knew from the comics become part of, team good guys? So
yeah, it's a big part of Brainiac 5's character is that he is the descendant, I guess, of Brainiac, who is green and is a bad guy. So that's one of the things he has to overcome. So yeah, that was a really big feature for Brainiac 5. He joined the baseball team and the Glee Club and all that kind of stuff.
That just made me laugh. He was trying so hard, and he suddenly roped into all these high school things, and he's just so gung-ho about it. So.
Yeah, that's a
And
good
during
episode.
his early appearances, he's so insecure about it. He's like, please, Supergirl, don't judge me because my ancestor was a space pirate who captured Pandora.
Yeah.
And she's all like, could he really be evil because he's Brainiac 5?
Yeah.
He's also cute.
So Supergirl has had, a history of considering him to be a romantic interest in the comics, so that's really interesting. So anybody else have a favorite episode so far?
Hard to choose, but I'd have to go with the prom.
Okay.
Yeah. both parts, because I appreciated both parts of that.
And what did you like specifically about that?
I like the awkward situations of dealing with, being in the past to accomplish something, but not wanting to interfere with this part of the past, and then just the humor of the situations they get into. So I like both the complexity of their task and the humor that comes from dumb mistakes.
I mentioned earlier, I really do like the episode where Kelly eventually is taking up the mantle of guardian, but right before she does, where she does right at the end of the episode. And it's not just because of her storyline, although that episode was really great, and that was where I was initially like, oh, this one should have been the 2 or 3parter. This is the one where we
I could have stretched it out. Yeah.
But in that episode, we also have, as the, I don't know, I guess it'd be the B plot, an interesting sort of storyline for Cara and William and the rest of them over at Catco, where they're doing this whole, we need to interview, the Super Friends sort of thing. And the whole Super Friends thing, I find a little, like the moniker, I find a little cheesy, but the kind of the ethical situation that is discussed there, I found kind of interesting and revealing about Cara's character in a short amount of time. So overall, I found that to be a very well-balanced episode.
Yeah, she's like, oh, no, we don't really need to do story about the Super Friends. That's totally not something we need to do. That's not the story. It's totally not the story. That's a really interesting thing to point out. And Dreamweaver, the episode that just aired last week, it also had a big dreamer story with kind of going into a dream realm and making a deal with the devil, I guess, as it were. So I guess that maybe is a good way to talk about what I guess who is the big bad of the season. So we met Nixley, who's a 5th dimensional imp in the Phantom Zone, and she traveled back to Earth. And so I was curious, what do y'all think about Nixley so far as a villain?
She's got potential.
Yeah, because you don't know when she's going to be trying to be good, is she roping people in that way by, killing them with kindness? But yeah, she's interesting to me because she's not approaching being a villain like Lex does. She's not like straight up about it. So yeah, I want to know a little more about her, I guess. What her motivations are, because she seems to be very, she's got some goal, some purpose that I'm not putting my finger on yet, as to why she wants to be there, what she wants out of this particular team, because she latched onto Cara, I think, is more than just a way to get out of the Phantom Zone. I just keep thinking she's got something else going on that we don't know yet.
She is persuasive, she is charming, she reads people well. Those are the kinds of villains I like. I think it's very interesting, and she, in her initial encounter with Dreamer, I think exposed sort of some newness and naivety with Dreamer, which sometimes we don't, I don't think we always see. I think there are instances where Dreamer is almost portrayed as OP, overpowered, and coming up against this villain, that's kind of taken down a bit. So I think she has the potential to be a good fit for this season.
Yeah, I get frustrated with Dreamer a little bit and her powers because she doesn't really have a flaw. Supergirl has kryptonite, and Brainiac 5 has overeating and emotional issues. I guess not overeating. He's stressing. He's stressing.
Yeah.
Just to clarify. So there's not really a flaw to what, I guess one of her flaws would be that she doesn't fully understand how to interpret her dreams. I think she's getting better at them.
She also needs more experience.
Yeah. So there is a little bit of that, but I guess part of a flaw for Dreamer would be sort of an emotional tie to her family. So I'm glad that they introduced that, even though I was so frustrated with her. I was like, no, don't make that deal. But I guess that's a way to sort of pay off what they had been setting up earlier in the Midvale episodes, where she kind of wanted to call her mom in the past and she didn't do it. So I think that's something that could play out throughout the rest of the season. I really love Nixley. It looks like she's got, the villain high collar, which I love. And so she's a lot of fun. I like the imps. The fifth dimensional imps, like Nixley, Nixley and Mixie, they're so powerful. I mean, they are one of the most powerful characters. I mean, that group of characters is powerful. They can make anything happen. They can create anything with a snap. So I'm excited to see what kind of trouble she's going to cause in National City. I hope she causes a lot of trouble, because she could potentially be really, really fun. And so I'm hoping that we'll get some Nixley and Mixie together, because that would be a real treat to see two imps on the show and see what kind of trouble they come up with. Because Mixie was actually, he's been on the show twice, and he's been a lot of fun both times. So that was good. Well, I guess we never really talked about our favorite characters. We spent a lot of time with these characters on the show, and I know you're itching to talk about Lena Luther. So
did you guys know that my favorite character is Lena Luther? Have I mentioned that yet?
So what about Lena? Do you like?
Well, she's charming. She's persuasive. She's all the things I like in a villain, but she's not a villain. So really can't complain. She's also really, really hot. That helps a lot. I think she has such good chemistry with everybody on the show. So whether she is supposed to be convincingly a sibling to Lex or a daughter to her mother, her friendships, her romantic relationships, everything that is thrown at her, she handles well. And there have been moments in this season certainly, but across the show for sure, where the writing has had its ups and downs, as is always the case with any TV show. You kind of have to find your flow. And even in instances where I didn't necessarily love her storyline, or I was worried they were going to take it too far into villainy or too far into redemption, she was going to be too good or too bad, she always still handles each of those situations in a really entertaining way. It is even entertaining to see her in scenes where she has very little power, or I don't like what she's doing, whatever. So that's kind of why she's my favorite. It's very transfixing to watch her on screen. And it was interesting, recently we got to see some kind of new interactions with characters for her that she doesn't often get to interact with. So we saw her interact with Dreamer, and that was really fun, and that was a really interesting experience, because you have a character who we mentioned with Dreamer, she kind of lacks experience and has a lot of naivety, and she wants to do good so badly, but she's not always great at doing it. And you contrast that to Lena. Lena's got tons of experience, and she definitely knows what to do, but she doesn't always want to do the right thing. There's a little bit of a mixed bag. She's got some mixed motives.
She did, lock Cara in her case bias with Kryptonite one time.
Okay, but she did it with love.
And she also did try to mind control the world one time.
Okay, but they had it coming.
That wasn't
Yeah, but she was only trying to eliminate those negatives.
She was just trying to make people
emotions.
nicer. It was fine. Yeah.
She was trying to give us peace on earth.
She's never done anything wrong a day in her life.
So I'm curious with your thoughts on Lena, because we have a new development for Lena this season, because now she is on a path to possibly hunt down, or at least not hunt down, that's a terrible way to say that, to find her mother, to reconnect with her mother's side maybe. I don't know if we know her mother's alive, but she's kind of looking for something about her family. So what are your speculations on what's happening there?
I think what we're getting is a part of her journey that's not closely tied to Cara. I happen to love Lena and Cara's interaction. I agree they have great chemistry, and in a show that's lacking romance, I'll take whatever I can get, right? But it is really rewarding to see Lena have a storyline of her own that is not necessarily specifically tied to her villainy brother, or specifically tied to Cara's personal development. So that is really nice. There's a lot of question marks and mystery around it thus far, but I have no doubt that even if the storyline doesn't go the direction that I'm hoping, which is Lena discovering a little bit more about the mixed kind of good and evil in her, I still think it'll be entertaining because it's Lena Luther. What are you gonna do? Look away when she's on screen?
So I guess going down that line, what do y'all think about Lena as well? What are your
Yeah,
thoughts?
I love her character. I love that she's allowed to be smart.
Yes.
And yet she's a brilliant scientist, and they let her win. They don't, she's allowed to be a functional part of the team and contribute without necessarily being, I don't know how to phrase it, subordinate to someone else's story. So she contributes on her own. And I also noticed too that this season, as she went more from shades of gray to the light side, that they changed the makeup. So she has a much softer face now, because when she was more on the, she's riding the fence, she was very stark and harsh in the makeup.
She looked really pretty both ways.
Oh, yeah.
But I noticed that they kind of took the inside, the emotional change kind of is reflected in her physical change now too.
I've often thought that when Lena wears her hair up, that's more of kind of a villainous turn for her.
And
When she has her hair down.
and a harder lipstick
Yeah.
line and the eyeliner, and now it's very soft. So she's kind of more on, physically looking like a good guy as opposed to a bad guy.
Right. Do you have any thoughts on Lena?
I like the fact that she's a very complex character. That she's very, very smart and very, very driven, but at the same time, she does have compassion and self-doubt that pops up at the weirdest times. And you can never be exactly sure how she's going to react to any one situation, because there's so many different facets, and you never know which one is going to be dominant this time. And I'm not to say that she's multiple personality disorder or anything like that, just that she's a person who considers many different angles.
Right.
And what was it last season where she first learned, that Cara was Supergirl and had been cut out of that insider knowledge all these years, and that really deeply hurt her. And with a one-dimensional character, you wouldn't see that really had an emotional impact on her. So that kind of endeared her to me, that she really feels things very deeply, even if she doesn't really show it.
Yeah, she took that pretty hard. She created a robot inside of her minion.
Yeah.
And she took that pretty hard. Well, do y'all have any other favorite characters on the show, and talk about kind of what they're doing in season 6?
To be honest, my favorite character actually is Cara.
Same here.
Yeah.
That is not a bad thing.
I mean, I know most shows you end up, you're supposed to come in for the main character, and then everybody falls for the side characters. But I really like Cara. I like the way that they portray her. I like both the Supergirl personality and the Cara personality, and the fact that they're pretty close, but there is a difference. I still find it amazing that people don't look at the two and go, you look an awful lot like.
That's suspension of disbelief.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on Cara in season 6? Or do you have any hopes for her as she goes forward?
I hope that she actually gets to know her father a little bit more. I think that's a wonderful reward for her for all the years that she has come, and basically she's been a hard-working servant to her parents' plans. Hi, we're going to send you to this other planet, to save your life, but we also want you to take care of your little cousin and all this. And then throughout it all, with all of her time spent in the Phantom Zone and getting here and finding out, her little cousin is now her little cousin, and having to deal with all that, throughout all of this, she's always been very dedicated to, well, my parents want me to do this, I'm going to do this. But she only remembers her parents from when she was a tiny little kid. To actually get to interact with her father now as an adult and see him as a real person, it can help you connect with yourself and finding out, okay, it's okay for me to have a flaw here and a flaw there, because Dad's not perfect either.
Sometimes in the comics, he is a villain.
Yeah.
He becomes cyborg Superman and does a lot of wild things. So it's interesting here in the show they've tried to. He has had some flaws. He's done some things that maybe he shouldn't have. But he was, again, doing it for the right reasons. So it's interesting that they've taken this turn with him to really kind of. The way that Jason Behr played him a little bit at one point made me wonder, like, what's going on with you?
There's still
but yeah.
potential for it to all blow up in her face, but I'm hoping.
Yeah, I mean,
something
now
different.
she has the potential to have a happy ending with both of her parents. Because Laura is on Argo, and we heard that Brainy transported him back to Argo, which I wish we could have seen. I wish we could have seen a reunion between Cara and her parents, but I guess they have to make room for other things. Because that's not important to see Cara reunite with her parents.
I don't have the budget for the special effects for the city or something.
Yeah, possibly, to get us back to Argo. But yeah, so I think there are some, good things that are going on with Cara, with the limited time they've had with Melissa this season, so it's good. So do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, Team Brady here. Yeah, he's just a fun character, and I love the fact that, like, they gave him emotional growth, because when he took the regulars off, now he has to learn how to deal with himself. And he kind of has almost a comedic element at times. The episode where there were all the multiple brainiacs was funny. It was like the Harrison Wells on Flash, where you had the Council of Wells, you had like the Council of Brainiacs. And so, I mean, that must have been really challenging to play as an actor, because you're having to play like 10 different versions of yourself and act, and then go over here and respond to yourself. So, from the film side of thing, I just really admired what he did. I mean, that would be challenging as an actor to do.
Yeah, Jesse Rath is such a good actor, and for what they've given him to do, he's really knocked it out of the park. And I think it's really cool, because Jesse, as a person in real life, is actually a big fan of the Legion of Superheroes. He's read all the comics, and he has his own Legion ring that he wears around. So he, I think, sometimes will have input on what they do with the character, how they dress him, how he, it gets portrayed. So I love that he takes the extra effort to be invested in the character as well.
Because I just get the feeling when I'm watching it, he is having a blast playing the character. And some of his emotional moments, I mean, just really painfully, heartbreaking, dark. And that he, what was it? He was dying in that room and sacrificing himself. And it just, I really feel for his character and just his place on the team as a whole.
Yeah, and he's got some good interactions with Lena. They've learned how to, throw the tiny boxes away and open up those emotions. So they did get some really good emotional growth with Brainy. And I think some of the ways that they played Brainy and Mia together as well have been pretty strong. The way they interact with each other and sort of support each other's stories as characters, which I think is really great. Okay, so let me check the time. Okay, so we got about 20 minutes left. So I wanted to sort of close this out, because we're still kind of in the middle of the season. We have, I think, 11 episodes left. I think we go to episode 20, so we're not even halfway just yet, so we've still got a little bit more story to tell. But I was just curious, what do you see happening in the final season? Or do you have expectations? Do you have things you want to see before it ends?
No, I'm just eager to see what they do. I'm not going to put any preconceived notions on it myself.
Yeah, same here. I always like to be surprised by where the story goes, where the writers take characters or take the story. So I try to avoid spoilers altogether, and because whatever I come up with, guaranteed the writers thought about it and were like, yeah, that wouldn't work at all. And so I like to just kind of take it. Although I really don't want to see another trash monster. That was just that was kind of lame.
Oh, but the trash monster was actually Kellex that turned into, that was a big twist to me. I was like, oh my gosh, Kellex turned into the trash monster. So that was really fun because Kellex has been a character that we've seen kind of on and off on Supergirl. I think the last time we saw Kellex in the Fortress was in season 4. So we haven't seen him for a while to get to see Kellex again. And he has an unknown reason that he and Brainiac 5 have a beef with each other. Nobody really knows why Brainy hates Kellex, but it's a really fun dynamic. So for me to see, I understand the
I'm going in, and
Yeah, I mean the trash monster was a little ridiculous. They had to, hit on climate change, I guess, before the end of the show. But to see Kellex show up again was a real treat for me.
The show kind of treats social justice issues as like a collection. Like you got to get them all. They're like Pokemon. Like you got to catch them all. I actually really like when comic book shows touch on social justice issues. It's just this particular show is very heavy-handed.
Yeah.
They're like, we're not sure if you're gonna get what our metaphor is, so we're gonna make it very clear and say it multiple times. But I'm always in this position where I'm like, I'm on the same side as you, but like, can you say it better? Can you just be like a little more subtle? I'm begging. So not going in with preconceived notions and being ready to be surprised sounds so healthy and well-adjusted. I love that. I wish that were me. I've got strong opinions. When it comes to the ending of this show, I really actually just want Cara to have a happy ending.
Yeah.
I want that happy ending to have love. I want it to have romance. I want to see her appreciated by humanity. I'm often kind of hard on heroes. I know I referenced like the Flash at the top of this, where I'm very hard on Barry Allen. I can make the pitch that he's a villain, right? And I'm not rooting for him.
There's an argument to be made.
There is. We will talk about that. But when it comes to Cara, she is so deeply good. She has kept so much of her goodness throughout this. She has grown so much, and I really want her to have a happy ending. And I have, kind of very specific elements that I want to be a part of that. I do want to see her with her family and to have a family and to retain her love of humanity and to be loved back by humanity. I also want to see Lena have a happy ending for many similar reasons, just based on everything she's been through and everything she's sacrificed and what she's done for this team. There are a lot of really interesting and dynamic and fun side characters, but truly those two are the ones where I really just want to see them be happy in the end, and I have a very specific concept of what happiness looks like for them. But I guess I want to be surprised and trust the writers. I wish I was that chill.
Yeah, that's really hard.
I agree. I'd like to see, if I did have a wish, it'd be to see Lena get a happy ending. Because she has suffered a lot, and she's been through a lot of back and forth. So I hope she lands on the side of full, lawful good.
Yeah, it did seem like at one point at the end of season 5, they were teasing that they were gonna take down Lex. So I wonder if Lena's end point will be to finally put her brother away, because he sort of talks himself out of jail this season. So I guess they wanted to bring him back, and so they couldn't put him in jail for a long time. They gotta just get him out somehow. So I think that could be part of it, is that maybe her mother's alive and she reconnects with her and puts her brother away finally.
I wonder if we can put him in one of the cubby holes in the Phantom Zone.
That would be a good use for that. Actually, yeah. I mean, they've got them all there. They need to put something there.
Nick Fleet versus Lex, and they both end up back in the Phantom Zone.
That's perfect. I would be okay with that. Yeah, it's tough with expectations because I love Supergirl so much, and I love all the different eras of the history of the comics, and it's been a little frustrating for me, season 4 through season 6, because there has been limited nods to Supergirl's mythology, her history that dates back to 1959. So, I go into the show, wanting to see Comet the Super Horse, and that never happened. So I'm trying to go in with low expectations of, not wanting to see certain things, just seeing kind of how the story plays out, because they may not give me, all the things. I'm not going to get soap opera Supergirl. She was a soap opera actress at one point in the comics, so I'm not going to get that probably. But I kind of want, just like you all, I want Cara to have a good ending. That's kind of my main expectation. They can play around with everything else, just really stick it to the landing pad, having a good ending for Cara, because my great fear is that there's a Superman show every 10 years. There's always going to be a Superman show every 10 years. They can't help themselves but to do a Superman show. But a Supergirl show might be harder to get again. And I think we were very fortunate to get a Supergirl show in the first place. So my great fear is that it won't end well, and that we won't have another one. So I'm hoping that, my greatest hope for the show is that it just really sticks to the landing and tells a really good Cara story by the end of it. Because it does frustrate me a little bit that, we have all these great characters, but sometimes I feel like the show puts too much emphasis on the other characters. And there's not, like there was an episode this season, Welcome Back, Cara, and it had a lot of Cara in it, and I was so shocked that there was so much. I mean, it was an episode about Cara, and I was loving it. That's probably, to talk about my favorite episode, I think Welcome Back, Cara was my favorite episode, just because it dealt with Cara's fallout from being in the Phantom Zone and really dealt with her emotions. So I think that's one thing that I hope the show kind of leans into it. They're gonna have to, get Kelly to be Guardian, and they're gonna have to probably do some romance with Alex and Kelly, and I hope they, adopt that little adorable girl that we met at the foster care home. So they have to, touch on all these other characters and kind of wrap their story, which is hard for a final season, to wrap up all of the characters and have everyone in a good place by the end of it. So I'm curious to see how they get there, I guess, is kind of my expectation. Just so I guess one of the things, I guess, along those lines, if you could pitch an episode of the show, like if you could pitch a story to the showrunners and say, hey, this is an idea or a story I would love to tell on the show, and they gave you the opportunity to do it, what would you want to do? Does anybody have any thoughts? Do you have a pitch for the showrunners? They might be listening, I don't know. Like if you could expand on a character's arc a little bit.
A brainy spinoff, all about him.
What more would you want to know about Brainiac?
He's just fun. I want to see him have adventures.
They mentioned at one point, it was just kind of a mention, but they mentioned his mother at one point. I would be interested in how he has a mother, because he's kind of half of a robot basically. So I'd be curious about Brainy's family and where he comes and the lineage from Brainiac. So I think there's more story to tell there.
They could put him on Legends of Tomorrow.
Yeah, he'd be a great fit.
He'd fit in right there.
He could probably help them time travel.
Oh yeah.
I don't know, sometimes Brainy's had trouble with time travel, but they could probably figure it out.
This is, I don't know if this is tropey, but we haven't seen them leave the city other than going to other, dimensions or, terrible places, bad places. No good, very bad. Right. It would be kind of fun to see them leave the city more kind of a vacation type of thing. And they're still, fighting some monster, killing somebody, I don't know, but maybe the episode ends with them like chilling on a beach or something.
Maybe like go on a beach vacation?
Yeah, something kind of nice, something where you get to see them like relax for a little bit, and yes, still have the same amount of conflict, everybody gets their fight scene, don't worry, I'm not gonna turn this into a half-hour sitcom, but maybe just something outside of the city.
Okay, I'm gonna yes and to that.
Okay,
So
yes.
they go to the beach, and they have an adventure in Atlantis. I think you can work in Atlanteans there. I think we've only seen Supergirl underwater once. I think it was in the very beginning of season 3, Supergirl actually has to go in the water. And I thought that was so cool. I was like, oh, she's swimming. So I think that would be really fun to, go down, maybe hang out with, I don't know, Arthur Curry could show up, or Lori Ramirez might be down there. She meets Jero the Merboy, who is a character that Supergirl has a crush on in the Silver Age. So I think that would be really fun. That would be kind of a quirky episode that could end with some I don't know what you drink on the beach, mojitos, cocktails, I don't know.
And in like a very CW way, but like CW at its best, where like everybody looks like a little too pretty. Like it's like there's like a bit much, right?
Yeah.
You get little, Mai Tais by the beach.
Yeah, no, I think that'd be fun.
They do have beaches in Vancouver, so it's conceivable.
You got all these actors and they're like freezing on a beach in Vancouver trying to act like it's like sunny in the Bahamas.
Yeah, National City in season 1, because they shot in Los Angeles, National City had a lot of palm trees.
Yeah.
So it would sort of fit in with the aesthetic they were going for early in the season,
There you go.
or early in the show. Anybody else have any ideas that they would throw out if they could have their dream episode? Yeah, I guess
It's too early in the morning for me to be creative.
yeah, no, that's a lot to ask on a Monday at Dragon.
Yeah.
No, it definitely is. Yeah, I guess my thing I would have pitched, and I know I mentioned Comet the Superhorse before, but Comet is probably the weirdest character in all of DC Comics. He's kind of part man, part horse, and I find that very quirky and endearing. But I always thought it would be fun to have like Supergirl maybe vacationing on a ranch or something. Get Cara on a horse. Why not do that? So I always thought that would be kind of a fun thing to like put her. I don't know if she'd be in the Wild West or she would just be like out on a ranch somewhere.
Kent Farm.
Oh, the Kent Farm. She can meet Comet at the Kent Farm. That's a great idea. So I think that would have been really fun. But I understand the pushback to that maybe from the showrunners. They might hesitate to have a magical horse on the show. I can see why that could be goofy.
With Constantine on Legends, they've introduced magic. So
Yeah.
it's
And-
part of the verse.
And they've had Kryptonian witches on the show, so Kryptonian Selena, Kryptonian witch kick them.
Ring was magically powered
Yeah,
instead of sunlight.
yeah, I think the witches created her, kind of, if I remember correctly. Yeah, so it's interesting, like, Titans has a full-on Krypto the super dog. Like, it's not just, a dog that is just part of the family's pet. Like, he's a white dog with heat vision and he flies, So it can be done. Super pets on live action can be done. So I think kind of leaning into some of that, more of Supergirl's history, I think would be something that I would love to see. But I don't know if they'll ever do it. But I would pitch Comet the Superhorse all day. I think that would be really, really fun. So I guess since we are kind of coming down to the time, it's the final season. We are not going to get any episodes after, I think, November 9th, I think is the last episode. So what are you going to take away from the show when it's over? How are you going to remember the show? And like, what do you think the show's legacy will be?
Well, for me, I had never read any of the Supergirl comics, so I didn't know any of these characters at all. So for me, I will have expanded my knowledge of DC characters and will know them very well as far as their individual personalities and capabilities and such. So I'll have something to fall back on if I go into other shows that are based in that area. And
So is Melissa Benoist your first Supergirl?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I missed the first movie, although I do remember it happening. I never actually made it to see the, I've spaced her name, Slater?
Helen Slater.
Helen Slater. I knew it's like, Slater was there.
It's in there.
It's morning and I am not a morning person. But, yeah, this was really my first real introduction to Supergirl, and I found her a very interesting character.
Yeah, same here. It's expanded my knowledge about this side of DC because I grew up as a New Teen Titans. That was my DC title that I
That was
followed
my favorite too.
religiously. So knowing these things now, and especially from your more in-depth understanding, I do want to go back and watch the first seasons so I can understand this side of this generation of storytelling in the DC universe more.
I'm so excited for you to get to meet Callista Flockhart's cat Great. You're gonna love her. That's gonna be. I'm sort of jealous that you get the chance to discover her for the first time. That's awesome.
I have an answer, but
Yeah.
you want to go ahead first?
Well, there's something that hits on like 3 of the topics. The reason you should go back and watch the first seasons, favorite character, and what I'd like to see is Win. I miss him so
Oh,
much.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
like
fell in
Win.
love with him because he's the smart, nerdy guy, cute guy. I always do that. So I miss him, and I would like to see him come back, hopefully in the finale.
That's a good one. Win is a great character.
I think what I take away from this incarnation of Supergirl is, you know, when we see the super family, when we see Superman, when we see supers come to Earth, what they do is they fall in love with humanity, and it is always, for me, it's always rewarding to see. But what was so interesting about this version of Cara falling in love with humanity is that she does not just fall in love with the bright, shining Lois Lane. She falls in love with flawed humans. She has, you know, friends like Lena who have dark sides and are hard to love, and she loves them deeply. She has a quirky or unstable friends. She has difficult but very great bosses like Cat Grant. And in every case with these hard to love humans who are not, you know, the perfect Lois, she still falls in love with them. And that has been really rewarding to see. That's one of the reasons why I root so hard for romance on this show, because it is really nice to see Cara love and be loved, not just because of the romance aspect, but because it's part of her broader storyline of really loving difficult humans. So I hope to see that for the rest of the season, but overall, that is what I take away from it.
Yeah, I think for me there are probably maybe 3 things that would probably, I would say, would be Supergirl's legacy. One, just to prove that a female-led superhero show could be successful, and it sort of redeemed the Helen Slater movie a little bit, because a lot of people think it's goofy, and it is. I mean, it is. But I think, you know, that was seen as such a failure, and to have 6 seasons of a Supergirl TV series, I think redeems that a little bit. I also think the addition to Alex Danvers for Supergirl to have a sister is a big deal.
That helped a lot.
That she doesn't have a sister in the comics, and so I think that's a really big addition. Now when people go read comics, they're gonna be like, where is Alex? So I think that was such a great and smart way to handle that when the show was introduced. And I think to your point initially, Smep, I talk to Supergirl fans all the time. It's part of my weekly routine, and one of the things I like to ask them is, how did you meet the character of Supergirl? And so often I hear, because of the TV show, because of Melissa Benoist. And for me, that's really wonderful to hear, that people are coming to the character of Supergirl through this show. Even if I have so many problems with the writing and some of the choices they make, it's introducing new fans and developing new fans. And so I think that's really great. Melissa has just been so awesome. She's such a perfect portrayal of Supergirl. And so we were very fortunate that she was cast in the role, because she's done such a good job. So I think there's some great legacies that the show is going to leave even after it's over. So, all right, well, I guess let's wrap up here. Let me do one thing. I had something to give away for people in the audience. So if you want to raise your hand and tell me who your favorite character is and why, I will give you this book about Supergirl. So does anybody have a favorite character that they want to talk about? Yeah.
Lena Luther.
And why? Why is Lena your favorite character?
Because, like you guys talked about, I mean, she's very, very confident and sure of herself as a CEO and as a scientist, but at the same time, she can break it down into being very fragile and very, you know, doubtful and, you know,
Very vulnerable.
Yeah, very
Yeah,
vulnerable,
she's very
especially in regards to her family, because Lex can hit every one of her pinpoints, because she worshipped him as, when they were little, because she thought my big brother, he's looking out for me when Lillian's being a bitch. And then to find out, no, he was just playing me all along when she, got the diary, and it was just like, then that self-confidence just kept knocking and knocking, but to see her this season basically come above that and just basically tell Lex, yes, I hate you, but I love me more.
Yeah,
And I
never
was
let
just like-
anyone, don't let anybody forget that Lena Luther is better than Lex Luthor at chess.
Yes,
So here you go, come grab your
I would
book.
like to add to that, I
Yeah.
really hope she doesn't spend too much time looking for her mother just being out of the show. I hope they can bring her back in and we get to see more of her.
Or make the show too early.
Sure. I guess let's go down the line and tell people if they can find you on the internet, where they can find you.
I want to Supergirl. I can't imagine why anybody would want to find me on the internet, but probably the best way to find me is on Facebook. There aren't too many Sharon, Marie, Antoinette Palmers out there, so.
I guess I'm mostly on Twitter, so it'd be at Anicat, ANICAT. I tweet a lot of film stuff, so if you're interested in film and filmmakers and film-related stuff, then that's kind of what I do.
And I'm Cami and Ray on all social media and YouTube, where I do a live stream every week where I talk about the women that made TV great that week, the men that made it kind of maybe okay.
Okay. And I'm Rebecca Johnson. I'm with Supergirl Radio. It's my podcast that I host every week. And you can find us at supergirlradio.com. I've also got some business cards if you don't want to have to remember all of that. But feel free to share your thoughts and theories with us at supergirlradio@gmail.com. And thank you for joining us on Monday morning at 10 a.m. at DragonCon, because I know everyone is exhausted, probably. But I hope you all had a great time at DragonCon and enjoy the final season of Supergirl.
If you've got the app, please rate this panel as to what you liked or didn't like. And I would ask for donations for the Big Brothers and Big Sisters of Atlanta, except I have to go to the other room to grab the tub, because the one from here seems to be missing. Thank you.